white paper, a pencil, scissors, embroidery needles, embroidery floss, and felt squares. Starting out with your paper and pencil, you're going to sketch just a basic oak leaf. We're going to do 2 sizes, so I'm going to start with the bigger one. And just about now you're like, but Crafty, I'm not an artist, I can't draw. Neither can I. I'm crafty, not artsy-fartsy. So I'm just going to make a very basic sketch. It's just a bunch of U's put together. So one side at a time. Just to guide my petals to make sure that they're all even, I'm going to make a line, and you can make as many lines as you want. If you want to try to do this with a ruler, I'm just doing it freehand. I have done it before, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, it's handmade. You're making it for someone or for yourself. And my second leaf is going to be slightly smaller. This way when I layer them, you can see both. And then my little acorn with a cap. This is what erasers are for. If you don't like the way it looks, just erase and draw over it. And then you're going to cut it out, and this way you have your template for your project. Now if you want your leaf to be more symmetrical, draw it on one side, fold it down the middle, and then cut. This way it might be easier for you if you like it to be a little neater. Once you have your templates cut out, I pin them to the felt. I can't seem to find a pencil or a pen that writes well on the felt, and this way I don't have to worry about lines. So I'm just going to slowly and carefully trim them out one by one. Once that's done, I'm going to take my template and flip it over so that when I put my pieces together, they're going to match. So I'm going to pin them on my next color, and I'm going to need opposite colors of both. So I'm going to need a yellow and an orange of each one, and see how I'm going to flip it over and just put it on the other one before I cut it out. Now for the acorn, I cut out a brown center, and then I'm going to also cut out a little yellow cap, so I don't need this whole piece, just the cap to put on top. Once my pieces are all cut out, I'm going to pick out the embroidery floss that I want to match. As you can see, I have a whole collection, but you can just pick out the colors that you want to match your felt when you're picking that up in the craft store. Now using about 4 threads, I'm going to sew a vein down the middle, and I'm going to make sure my stitches overlap so it looks like a solid line. So when I come up the back, I'm just going to make sure the needle goes through the other threads, and I'm going to continue that all the way to the top of the leaf. Now if you've never used embroidery floss, it comes with 6 threads, so I separated out 4 because I don't want it to be too thick, and this way you can see each stitch. vein is done, I'm going to repeat that with each petal of the leaf with the same 4 threads, and then I'm going to use 2 or 3 threads to make branches to my vein coming out on each side. This way they're a little bit thinner. Now you don't have to worry how your back is going to look because we're going to put the 2 sides together. So this is very forgiving. You don't have to worry about mistakes or knots or pulls in the back. We're just going to do each one 3 or 4, and this way it looks like a real leaf. Once all your veins are done in your top piece, you're going to take the embroidery floss again. Now I go inside so this way the knot is hidden when I put them together, and I'm just going to do a simple blanket stitch all the way around. So I'm going to go through both pieces, catch my loop, and this way the thread runs along all the edges. So through my loop and all the way around. Always catching my stitch. This way it looks really nice, and it's called a blanket stitch because you'll see it at the end of blankets. Done with both our leaves, I'm going to move on to the acorn with its little cap. I'm going to use a single thread of embroidery floss to add a little detail to our acorn's body. So I'm just going to do a few stitches curving around with the shape of the acorn, and I'm going to make 4 lines throughout. To attach the cap, I'm going to use 2 strands, and I'm just going to put a few stitches between both layers. Once that's done, I'm going to get my template and I'm going to make a back in the orange. I'm going to cut that out, and then using 2 threads, I'm going to make a blanket stitch around the whole acorn. Now that I have all my pieces, I'm going to decide where they're going to go. Now, feel free to use your glue gun if you want, but I already had my needle and thread out, so I decided to stitch them together. Being careful not to show the stitches in the front, so I'm only sewing through the back layer of the front leaf. And once that's all done, I'm going to do the same thing with the acorn. we made together. This was my original one, which I've already made into a hair clip, which I stitched on, or you can glue, feel free. You can also make it into a pin, or if you prefer, you can put it on a headband. And that's it. Happy crafting!